They say the woods hold secrets, ancient ones. And sometimes, if you're unlucky, those secrets find you. This is the story of 4 friends who went camping and discovered they weren't alone in the woods. It was supposed to be a simple weekend camping trip. Mark, Sarah, Jen, and Tom had been friends for years. And the idea of spending a night under the stars, away from the world, seemed like the perfect break. They had no idea that something else was watching them from the shadows. As the night deepened, they sat around the fire, telling stories and roasting marshmallows. But the deeper they went into the night, the more the mood shifted. It was subtle at first, a strange tension in the air, a feeling that they were being watched. Mark was the first to notice it. A shadow just beyond the trees, flickering in the firelight. He shrugged it off, thinking it was his imagination. But when he glanced at the woods again, it was still there, watching. He didn't say anything at first, didn't want to freak the others out. But as the night wore on, the feeling grew stronger, like something or someone was circling their campsite. Tom, unaware of Mark's unease, tried to liven up the group by telling a ghost story. It was a typical tale, meant to get some laughs. But by the time he finished, no one was laughing. The woods felt darker, heavier, as if the trees themselves were closing in. Then Sarah saw it, a figure, standing just beyond the firelight, tall, impossibly still, its face hidden in the shadows of the trees. She blinked, and it was gone, but she knew what she had seen. Sarah whispered to the others, telling them what she saw. At first, they thought she was joking, until Mark admitted he'd seen it too. A figure just standing there, watching. They all agreed to stay close to the fire. It seemed silly to be afraid. There was no one else for miles, but the woods felt wrong. The air was colder now, the silence deafening. Jen stood suddenly, her face drained of color. "Did you hear that?" she asked. The others listened but heard nothing. Someone just called my name. She swore she heard it again, a faint voice drifting through the trees, soft but unmistakable. It was calling her name over and over from somewhere deep in the forest. Tom tried to laugh it off, saying it was just the wind playing tricks on her. But Jen wasn't so sure. She had heard it. They all had heard something. The night seemed to stretch on forever, and the shadows around them seemed to move. Then, just after midnight, Mark heard it. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, circling their campsite. He grabbed a flashlight and shone it into the trees, but saw nothing. The footsteps continued, growing louder, closer. He couldn't see anything, but the footsteps were unmistakable. Someone or something was out there, walking around their camp. But every time they looked, there was no one there. Sarah was the first to speak up. "We need to leave, now." The others agreed. The fun was over. Whatever was out there, it wasn't human. They packed up their gear in a panic, the footsteps suddenly stopping. The air felt heavier, and an unnatural silence settled over the woods. But as they turned to leave, the figure appeared again. It stood there, watching them. No face, no features, just a towering shadow in the darkness. They froze, their hearts pounding in their chests. They backed away slowly, never taking their eyes off the figure. It didn't move, didn't make a sound, but its presence was enough to chill them to the bone. They knew, without a doubt, they were not supposed to be there. They ran. None of them spoke. None of them looked back. But even as they left the woods behind, they could feel it, the shadow, still watching from the trees, waiting for the next group